Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Lilia Alexander from Territory 3 Kiwi landing pad Reimagines. We're a nonprofit all about helping New Zealand startup founders, growth aspirations, connecting you guys in with each other, and just building a cool community of founders to help everyone, grow your startups and do amazing things. And so today we've got Jessica Manins from Beyond VR, who has set up VR studio in Wellington, creates games with VR, which is super cool. And yeah, she's just done some amazing stuff, raised some capital. So yeah, we're excited to have her on the webinar today to talk a little bit about her journey, ups and the downs, and just general kind of, what does the VR world look like right now? What's it like creating a startup in VR? And if you have any questions, do chuck them in either the Q&A section or chuck them into the chat, and I'll keep an eye on both. So if there's anything along the way that comes up that you think of a question, just chuck it in there. It's good when these are interactive, so please do. And yeah, cool. So we get underway. So Jessica, if you want to do just a bit of a background intro on what you've done so far and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so my background's actually in theatre and film. So that's what I studied many, many years ago. And after a trip in Prague, I met the founders of a company called Star Now, which is a New Zealand startup, recently exited. Fantastic, really cool platform to bring talent together with jobs and opportunities, auditions. And I ended up meeting them in Prague. Long story short, 8 years I spent with them in New Zealand building that community in a range of jobs. When I left, I was Chief Customer Officer there, but it gave me this huge appetite for kind of weightless technology and how you can solve problems in an area that you love, which for me was entertainment. And going out of that, I ended up getting into VR, which was kind of similar in a way, in that it was kind of an exciting new technology, and it was not only kind of solving problems, but it was giving people a new opportunity to experience entertainment. And for me, it meant I could kind of go back to my roots, which was entertaining people, my love of theatre and film, and theatre kind of crosses over quite well into VR in terms of that 360 interactive environment that you have. And so kind of 5 years ago, I started my first company there, and that was a co-working R&D space for people working in VR. So a real community that we created there in Wellington called Projector. Started an association to kind of, again, bring people together, start to raise awareness around what was happening in the VR, AR space. And then that eventually led me into the studio, which I have here, Beyond, where we are making social virtual reality games, a real focus on accessible multiplayer games that spark joy and make people have fun. And so that's kind of where we are now. I'm kind of three odd years into Beyond and sitting here in my studio in Wellington.
Awesome, cool. And do you want to talk a bit about the things that you're doing currently with Beyond VR? Like, you just had school holidays, so what's going on? What does that look like? What's your day-to-day?
Yeah, so yeah, as you said, it's school holidays. So our first game we made was Oddball, and Oddball's a little bit like playing laser tag in a Dr. Seuss world. So bright and colourful and crazy, and you can do things like turn people into giant pineapples, and they shoot like pineapple juice, and make them a cactus and have cactus power up. So it's silly, but it's competitive. So it's teams against each other. And it's in free roam. So it's using wireless headsets. So you don't need a computer or a backpack PC. And that was kind of our key focus when we started. We wanted to make games that were more accessible to people, didn't cost as much. So the overheads for setting up a space, if you were a VR arcade owner or you worked in family entertainment. So there's a lot of, if you think about, going with your family, you might go to bowling, or you might go to a trampoline park, or, all of those kind of fit in that customer base of family entertainment centers. We wanted to be able to go in there and say, look, instead of having to pay for this huge setup, for VR, which might be, free roam, which would have, say, backpack PCs, outside-in tracking systems, so like OptiTrack, really expensive tracking systems. we just want to go, look, here's a game and here's some headsets, and you can set it up for around, $10,000 instead of $30,000. And so that's what we created with Oddball, and it's been a really great game. And we're at school holidays. We're just at Brewtown there for 2 weeks. So we had an awesome guy, Ed, running that game out there for us. It was pretty packed, which was cool. And that was that's been part of our focus. And then due to kind of COVID hitting, when we launched our project, which I'm really happy to chat about, it was quite a journey. We ended up looking at consumer VR. And so for the last kind of 10 months, we have been working on a new game called Combinauts. I think this might be the first time I've told people publicly what the name is, but yeah, it's a new VR game called Combinauts, and that's been our key focus, and we'll be publishing that this year.
Oh, so exciting. You mentioned COVID. Do you want to delve into what happened during COVID? How did the startup handle that? Any challenges you faced during COVID? So if you're happy to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I can now without crying because there were definitely a lot of tears, as I'm sure there were for many, many business owners. While some thrived, us that were focused on bringing people together in live environments like events or family entertainment centers, it was a very different story. And having, kind of put all our heart and soul into what we'd created with Oddball and the business model around it, COVID was not something that as a founder I'd put in my risks kind of, when you're doing that. I hadn't planned for a pandemic. And so we had created our game, and we were probably one of the world first to create an 8-player free roam game like we had with Oddball, at this low price but high quality, really fun. And we managed to get in with an incredible place in LA called 2-Bit Circus. Now, 2-Bit Circus is a micro amusement park. It is like, we don't really have anything in it in New Zealand that's like it. But if you imagine an adult playground, but also kids would love it too. There's an amazing bar in the middle. There's interactive theater. There's old school pinball machines. There's, a whole huge space dedicated to virtual reality. It's like a dream come true for someone like me who loves those kind of environments. That is what 2-Bit Circus is. And it's very well known in the VR sector because Brent Bushnell, the founder, has always been really innovative himself and has supported people doing new and interesting things in that space. And so they always had the latest, greatest kind of cool VR stuff. And we managed to get in with them, which was amazing. So we had a dedicated space in there. My founder and I, Anton, went to LA and set up, spent a few weeks there. Some very famous people went through our game, Ice Cube, a few others, people, it was so exciting for us. It's kind of like your dream come true as a startup, right? You've built something, and you've got your product and you're ready to go, and you get that first customer. And if that first customer is one that's just incredible, even better, right? Because that's going to be how you're going to leverage that PR, how you're going to get out there, the reputation that you're going to have associated with that. So we were absolutely over the moon. And then we came back, and that was just when things were starting to look a little bit iffy with COVID. We couldn't go through the smart gates, but we were like, oh, this is okay. What's happening here? And weren't 100% sure. And a few weeks later, I think we all know what happened in the world. And, it all shut down. And all of those spaces, including 2-Bit, shut. So we never really got to ride on that wave that we had just started to get onto. We literally got back and had inbound emails from people who wanted to know about our product, wanted to trial it, people wanting exclusive deals, like multi-million-dollar exclusive deals with us to create content, all coming out of the US, because that was where our key focus was. And that all just dropped, right? That entire thing stopped. So lockdown was a real process of basically watching your company fall over, because we didn't have the runway to be able to see us through. that we needed that revenue to be coming in. That was really important for us. We had spent a lot of money on getting that first customer, the travel, all of those things. So there was basically the end of, it felt like that was the end of the company. And I kind of grieved in a way. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of, it's over. There were 3 of us founders. One of them decided to leave during that lockdown and go, look for a job. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I thought about maybe I could just go learn to surf and just have a break. We had to let our team go. One of the hardest things, to have to do all of that. And then I guess New Zealand had this an incredible kind of recovery of what we did, as we know. And B, I'm not very good at giving up. And so even though I spent a day of grieving, I only spent a day. And then I started planning, and so did my co-founder, Anton. We started thinking, okay, well, what can we do? We have learned so much in this area. We have built something magical. We can't just let this go. And so during that time, we'd already had a really good relationship with the team over at Weta Workshop. They previously were Weta Game Shop. They had been making games with Magic Leap, which is an augmented reality headset. So in a similar field to us. And they also were, as you know, there's Unleashed that they're doing some really interesting things in location-based entertainment. So in a similar way, we're looking at the world going, oh my goodness, what can we do together that would be something that addresses the current situation of COVID? And that current situation, if we look at it, was isolation, loneliness, a lot of people really struggling as they're stuck at home across the world, but wanting to be connected. We crave that connection, those social connections. And so a lot of people were gaming. A lot of people were gaming online. In fact, it went up 75%, people gaming during COVID. And there's also studies that show that those that were gaming through COVID were dealing with those lockdowns better than those that weren't. And a lot of that comes down to the social connections, because when you're playing online with friends, you're talking to friends, you're communicating or messaging, there is that community, and you're getting that important thing for your well-being. So for us, we thought, well, what if we just focus on consumer virtual reality games, people at home. And during COVID, people were buying the VR headsets, particularly Oculus Quest that we'd been building with Oddball, more than ever before. They were absolutely selling out. They couldn't restock them fast enough. So we knew that demand was there, and that people were wanting to buy these headsets. I mean, now a Quest headset is $299 US. So we're really getting to a price point that people can afford. And so we thought, well, let's redirect our attention, and let's collaborate, and let's get out of this, this situation. It's not a pivot, it wasn't a pivot, but a reassessment of the market and the opportunity, and taking what we already knew and being able to leverage that. And so we managed to raise a little bit of money from our previous investor on this new kind of collaboration and concept, which was amazing. It was also really stressful, because then suddenly you go from being like, it's all over and I've had this thing and I kind of have to let that go, to, okay, now I've got to reform all my ideas and our vision, and hire people again, and find people and bring this to life. So that's what we did. And in some ways, it was the best thing that's ever happened, because we found a team which were just absolutely incredible. So, our Tristan, who is our CTO and kind of lead developer, I'd worked with him on and off for 5 years. And so already knew him, and he'd been doing his own thing. And then he saw what we were doing and was like, yeah, I'm keen to join that and be part of that. We really wanted to make sure that we were going to include an ESOP. And so, we could make sure that people had buy-in with us and wanted to be successful when we are successful. And as someone said to me during COVID, it's like, who's on the bus with you when things get hard? And, those are the people you want to bring along for the journey with you. And so we found some really great people. Phil, he was previously been working at Wingnut AR, so Peter Jackson's company. He had been at 8i, which is another kind of VR startup out of Wellington a few years back. And so some really great talent. And we have been working with Weta since then and on this new game, Combinauts, which is really just in this last little while started to come together into something really fun and playable. It has the same kind of values that underpin our company around accessibility. So, easy to use. Anyone can kind of play it together. It's fun. It's, it's a multiplayer game. So again, it has that social element with voice. So no matter where you are, you can play with your friends and talk to them as you play this game, which is really important. And one of those things we wanted to do out of COVID. And basically it's a collector game. So you are a Combinaut and you love things like collecting and dressing up and pleasing an overlord. So it's all about getting into this game and trying to find these cosmic paperweights before the time's up, and you might get neutralized. So, you don't want that. And there's some fun power-ups in there, and you can kind of be rewarded with these combucks, which you can spend to make yourself look really fancy. And it's just all about kind of a quick, fun party type game. So yeah, that's what we're doing now and launching later this year.
Cool, awesome. And I'd be curious in terms of like revenue models. So would you be selling the game? Is it free? Is it more people pay to physically play? Yes, what are you looking around there?
Yeah, so unlike Oddball, which the revenue model was that we license it to locations, and that is now we've got that in about 5 locations across the world. So that's the revenue model there. With consumer VR, it's pay to download the game, similar like you would on Steam with PC games, and that the Oculus Quest store is where you would purchase it. So if you owned an Oculus Quest, or if you own another headset and you could go onto Steam, then you'll be able to download it and pay and play from there. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. I've actually got one at home that I should get that downloaded on when it's ready.
Yeah, maybe we can give you a sneak preview.
That would be awesome. Cool. And so what does the next 12 months look? Oh, actually, first off, so you've recently closed a funding round. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
What was the process like with that?
It's been an interesting process because there's no gaming funds in New Zealand. It's, and those that are just starting to dip their toes in it don't necessarily understand the market. So there's a huge educational kind of journey of taking investors on when it comes to particularly VR gaming. A little bit easier, because we've got some really great success stories in gaming, like Rocketworks, and there's a few companies that have been acquired. There's a few that have had 10-cent investment. So that one's a little bit easier for people to get their head around, but virtual reality it's an up and coming gaming market. We're still at the kind of the forefront of it. There's people who have been doing it longer than us, but we are kind of coming up 3-4 years of working particularly on the Oculus Quest, so have a lot of kind of knowledge in that area. So yeah, kind of a really quite long raise, which we've just closed, to get people to understand, to play the games, to take them on that journey of why now and why VR adoption and gaming is a place to be. And really a lot of it comes down to the Oculus Quest. Now they've had over 60 titles that have made over 1 million on the Quest store. So that compared to the previous year, has at least doubled. So that's 1 in 3 developers on the store making over 1 million. Half-Life Alyx, quite a famous game, went on to VR on Steam, brought about 1 million new VR users. So that was kind of like a real, surge. And games like Beat Saber have kind of made VR really accessible to people because, you know, if I say Beat Saber, you're nodding, you know, it's one of those games that people know. And, you know, they've sold over at least 4 million copies. They got acquired by Facebook, who owns the Oculus Quest. So, you know, there's just been this real shift since kind of 2020 in the adoption, in the software sale trends, which have just absolutely, you know, they hit 300 million in 2020. So, you know, you're starting to get into numbers that are actually kind of interest, but they're still not quite the same, say, as going, oh, it's $1 billion, you know, they hit $1 billion of software sales last year. So yeah, so the round, you know, long story short, was a long one but it meant that we've managed to get people who are really in the journey with us. They really believe in us as a team. You know, the due diligence was very thorough. Where, you know, we're kind of all friends now, and so I'm excited to bring some more knowledge and diverse knowledge into our team. We've been able to keep it, you know, all here in Aotearoa, which is pretty awesome, you know, and pretty much local. So yeah, it's cool.
Wow, exciting times for sure. And in terms of growth, what's next? Is it all focused on this new game, or have you got plans for what's happening afterwards?
Yeah, so definitely right now it's focus on our game, and you know, that's, you know, there's a lot of marketing, you know, working on influencer strategies, you know, getting ready to kind of do the big launch. But at the same time, of course, we have a million ideas of other games that we want to make. We also last year won the Spark 5G Starter Fund, and so that enabled us to experiment and learn about 5G and the impact that can have on gaming. And basically, we were able to build an application where we brought our VR players in Oddball together with mobile players. So you can have, you know, say six people in VR, they're walking around in their headset playing together, and then they could look up and they would see these little goblin characters above them who were actually players on a mobile phone, but in the same environment together. And those players on a mobile phone were able to assist the VR players, so they could find power-ups. I mentioned before, you know, you could turn someone into a pineapple. You know, we have invincibility, so they could find these little power-ups in the sky, and then they were in balloons and they could come and drop them, and they would drop down from the sky into the VR space, you know, into your environment, and you in VR, you know, can go and pick up that power up and use it. So it's this lovely like interaction between, you know, these characters together, and half being on mobile and half in VR. And that was really looking at how, you know, you can use the low latency and high bandwidth of 5G. And then later, of course, you know, edge compute and network slicing and other bits that will come into play will be important for gaming as well. But, you know, for us, it was really about how do we safely over 5G bring those two people, all those people together. So yeah, we've got that. We did a kind of MVP of that, which we showcased at a big event with Spark and their customers this year, and we'd like to continue to have that application and enable people to play on mobile into our VR games. It just means, again, you know, it's more accessible to the masses. You know, it means more people can join in, whether you're at a location and your kids are playing a game, you know, a game of VR, and you want to, you know, join in from the side on a mobile phone, then you can. Or one of your friends has a VR headset and you don't, then you can still play together. So yeah, so that's also something that we are continuing to focus on.
Cool. I'm just wondering, is that restricted to phones that have 5G then, or is it open to anyone?
It won't be in the future. So the demonstration was absolutely using 5G, and you had to have a 5G phone. But no, it won't in the future. And of course, if you're at home and you've got good internet there, then it won't be an issue.
True. Oh no, that's awesome. Cool. Okay, sounds like you're onto some super exciting stuff with the game developments and everything going on. What else is happening in the VR space at the moment? Like you mentioned a couple of different startups in Wellington. You know, is there much going on in New Zealand?
Yeah, in New Zealand, there's definitely been a good network of people probably over the last 5 or so years who have continued through the hard times, because it has been a tough industry to be in. Not a lot of funding is available for it, particularly if you're in games. Like, you're excluded from Creative New Zealand funding. So, when everyone else was getting COVID recovery, grants, no, they were not available for us. So, it's been a tough one. So those that have managed to get through it are exceptional. And there are people like Sam Ramlu at Method, who's got her game Wanderer, which is a VR game which will be published on PlayStation VR. It looks absolutely beautiful, exceptional job that they're doing. Really, they are a company I'd be watching in New Zealand or, internationally. Last night we actually held a meetup. The industry, some of us call it XR. I'm not that big on the term, but anyway, XR is kind of covering virtual and augmented and kind of any of these immersive technologies. We hosted a meetup here last night, and one of our speakers was Dr. Miriam Ross, who was previously at Victoria University, but has really specialized in interactive stories, and has been making, first kind of interactive 360 films, and now has had funding to kind of make much more immersive VR films. And so she's got a few that'll be coming out soon. And Raki Said, who's also at Victoria University, her film Minimum Mass has done really well, her VR film. So there's some really fantastic practitioners working in VR, and there's lots more. So there's probably a good handful of people doing really interesting, high quality, awesome things, whether it's in games or storytelling, new narrative kind of forms using VR. And yeah, I guess the industry as a whole has really grown in this last kind of 12 to 18 months. I talked a little bit about some of those numbers around the market, and the cost of headsets has come down, the quality has gone up. You no longer are going to say to people, oh, have you tried VR? And they say, oh yeah, I went on a roller coaster and it made me sick, because that's what you used to get, right? It's like, oh, some horrible experience, which, you take the headset off straight away. We've all learnt. We don't make that kind of content. So there's just a raft of amazing stuff out there, and it's only going to continue. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg is absolutely focused on this metaverse, this whole world of social connections online. You even just looking at, say, Roblox or something, that you can go inside and have a concert. This is a new way of delivering music, globally. There's this museum of other realities, which is where you can go on in VR and experience a fashion show, a live, fashion show. You can experience beautiful pieces of art. Like, this virtual world has really expanded, and the technology has really developed a lot in the last few years. So it's, and then of course, there's a lot of people doing interesting things in education. That's a big area. Training, you think about doing anything dangerous that you might not want to train in real life, then you can create these very, very realistic situations in VR. So that's a real big area of growth as well.
Cool, awesome. And what's the crossover in terms of AR? Like, do you do work in AR as well?
Yeah, I have, we've made some AR apps in the past, and when we were doing it, it was more phone-based AR, and there are some cool little promotions and things that people are doing in that area. There's a team of people who are quite focused on AR in Wellington, James Everett, New Zealand XR Group, and it's like, again, how do you gamifying digital assets in the real world and playing with them. GeoAR is Mel, and it's like gaming outside for kids. So you go and check, find the little dinosaurs and things. So there's some really cool stuff in that space. HoloLens is kind of one of the headsets, and then Magic Leap, which I think I mentioned before, both AR headsets, and they're still very focused on enterprise solutions. So that's really the big area of growth at the moment in AR. However, once Apple comes to play, and I've probably been saying this for a few years, once we start to have Apple glasses, AR is going to be absolutely massive, absolutely crazy. Every single app that you think that you might use on your phone, you're going to need to have an equivalent type one on your glasses. So that is an area of growth. Absolutely. It's not something right now we're focused on. We're just so excited about VR gaming, and that's our thing. But there's a really big opportunity there in augmented reality.
Exciting. When you mentioned the glasses, it makes me think of Google Glass, which didn't stick around for long.
It didn't. It was a bit creepy.
Yeah.
But absolutely kind of the a great kind of catalyst for the further development of what didn't work, but also what did work.
Yeah, and I know even things like TikTok is making a lot more people more aware of AR. So you can check on a filter and it's like a dinosaur walking around your room, or it's some typical stuff.
Yeah, Snap really led the way with filters and AR, and me and my son have a great time, singing little songs and putting on little faces. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I think everyone's been Disney characters lately.
Yes, yeah.
Gosh, awesome. And in terms of the technology of converting between VR and AR, would that involve you'd have to hire a different team with different skills, or is it quite
so there's two game engines that we develop in, is Unity and Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine, if you know the game Fortnite, that was, they developed that as well. So Epic Games. And then the other one is Unity. And it does, either of those game engines that we develop in, you use them for both augmented reality and virtual reality. So no, we are absolutely, it's the same space. It's the same technology. It's just the application in which you are developing it for is going to be different. So whether that's an eyewear or whether that's a handset that you're holding. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's good to know. And I've seen online you've done some, I think it was an article or a webinar in terms of being a female founder. Would you be happy to talk a bit about, that kind of story? Any challenges that you've faced, I guess being female, and especially in tech, which we know is pretty male dominated.
I mean, I guess I'm quite fortunate in that I was brought up in a family where females can do anything and we're supported in that way. And my dad, he was originally an outdoor education teacher. I think actually when computers first turned up when he was at secondary school, they said, who can be a computer teacher? And so he said, oh, well, I'll learn, and because they didn't exist. So we had an old Apple when I was growing up, and we got to muck around on that. But we definitely were taught we could do and be whatever we want, and it didn't matter whether we're female or male. So because I had that mindset from such an early age, I didn't really think about it, going into business. I know I always wanted my own business, and I wanted to do my own startups because I wanted to take more risks than some of the companies that I was working for. And so I knew that it was needed to be there for my money or my time and etc. to take those risks, and it needed to be mine, and that's the only way I could ever do it. I think I'm probably have some of those female traits that might have let me down and made it harder to get funding, potentially. It's hard to know though, right? I'm really honest, and I've worked with a lot of men over the last 5 years in VR. Some of them I no longer work with. Some of them it's been challenging. And often there's a lot of ego there. And I don't know if I have quite the same, I look at some of these founders and, of doing things, and I think, you don't actually know more than me, but I feel like you do, just because of the way that you talk and, present and this confidence, that I just wonder sometimes, has it been harder for me as a female with my honesty, around what I say to people, with the areas that I know I'm not good at, I don't just pretend, and I wonder if sometimes that has made it harder. harder to negotiate, harder to raise money. But it's a thought, I guess, where I go, because mostly I don't see it. I just go, yeah, cool, I'm equal to everyone else. But then I go, oh, is this doing anything harder for me? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to know, right? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I definitely wish there would be more females, particularly in where I am now in gaming. It would be really nice to have a more diverse team and to have more applicants coming through when I'm recruiting that are female. It's something I try hard to kind of get out and find people, and but it's still a very male dominated industry in a lot of areas, particularly in engineering. And we're a very engineering heavy company. So you'll find more on the creative side, but yeah, it's something I'm keen to support.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, are you aware of any initiatives currently to get women in VR?
In VR specifically, I'm not 100% sure if there is. There's definitely some great initiatives of people who are trying to get females into gaming. I've seen, some of that, but I went and spoke at a secondary school media conference. My old media teacher asked me to speak at their conference this year, and they really weren't thinking about games at all. They were really quite traditional with what they were looking at in terms of, the areas of media that they were encouraging their students to get into. So I was very much pushing that kind of like, you as a teacher have such an influence on what your secondary school students decide is available for them and the options that are available for them. And so you have to be able to show and demonstrate, people like myself and Sam Ramlu and the other woman I mentioned, Miriam, you show them that there's opportunities as a female to lead a company in an area that is super creative, but also has technology. But what companies don't have technology involved in them? There's not many, right? It's just about being creative and encouraging people and showing them the path that they can take. So, I'm sure there's people out there doing it, but yeah, probably more needs to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I just noticed a comment there from Jackie that there's a growing number of investors who are appreciating honesty, which, me too.
Yeah, that's yeah. Thanks, Jackie. And and I think she's right. And there are, and hopefully that pays off in the long run, right? Because you're not having to cut, you're not having to cover, and that you said you were doing something, or you said you were something, and you're not.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I hope that it is on the rise. Okay, if anyone has any questions, I think we've gone through the bulk of the topics that I had noted down for us to talk about. So any questions, any thoughts, do chuck them in the chat and in the Q&A. We've still got 20 minutes, so we've got some time to have discussions if there's anything on top of mind for anyone. Something coming through.
No, that was just me. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Julia Ann.
Cool. Okay, well, in the meantime, what else is going on? Oh wait, here's one. What's your favorite game?
I'm really enjoying Blast On at the moment. Blast On's a virtual reality game by Resolution Games, who they're an incredible studio. Geez, and I can't remember what they just raised, but it was something like $25 million or something for their studio, and they are just a virtual reality studio that, I say just, a lot of people are like, well, they are studios. And they are absolutely killing it on the Quest store. And they made like Angry Birds VR, Demio, which has done really well. And yeah, Blast On is just super fun. It's a duel, and you just have different little weapons that you can grab, and you're just kind of fighting together with your friend, but it's super fun. Yeah.
In terms of the different VR systems, what do you see Oculus as being, the main one in the future? Or because did Microsoft, they had one as well?
Yeah. You can probably see my museum behind me. There's a couple of Microsoft ones up to that side over there. So yeah, Microsoft is in the game. They've really led with their HoloLens augmented reality headset. But of course there's Valve, which has real high quality Valve Index. So that's Gabe, who actually is in New Zealand now. It's his company. And so they also have Steam, which is the platform where you can buy your games from. HTC do really great high quality headsets. So originally, like the Vive, and then there's the Vive Focus. So there's some kind of standalone ones coming, and a bit more kind of hardy, like for, if you think about oddball and location-based VR, groups of people coming, putting headsets on and off. Those kind of headsets are really designed for those environments. Same with like training, if you're training people, firefighters, whatever, you want that kind of really sturdy, good hardware. Oculus Quest is very consumer focused. It's about having the social media. It's about having the community. It's about having really high quality curated content. So you have to be able to get on their store. You don't just publish like on Steam. Anyone can go on Steam. So that's kind of where the different sides are focusing.
There's a question here. Cool. What's the future of advertising in VR and AR? Have you looked into that much?
Yeah, well, we've done a little bit of advertising in AR, and I guess whether the question is, will there be advertising in AR, or I guess, or making adverts yourself. In VR, they've just tested out having adverts inside games, which is interesting. So if you think about the free-to-play model that mobile have, we'll probably see some of that start to come in. So you might get a free game, but then there's going to be some adverts in there. There was quite an uproar, actually. Blaston actually put it in their game, the one I was just mentioning, and the community was like, nope, no ads. In terms of the opportunities to advertise in AR, absolutely. Where are your customers? If your customers are there, that's where you will advertise. And in the future, like I mentioned around, say, when Apple have their glasses, if people, there will be ads. There will absolutely be ads. I hope that it's not in a horrible way. I hope that it's, in a way that we can kind of filter it but it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. There's people doing just unique things though in AR, making games to advertise a product, doing fun activations, there's really innovative things that you can do using AR. And if you think, well, if your market are a little bit younger and are using this technology, you should absolutely be thinking about how do you advertise to them using AR. Definitely. I hope that answered your question.
David says, isn't one of the biggest pitches for AR location-based offers / ads?
Isn't one of the biggest pitches location-based offers? Oh, yes, I see. So once we have really great machine learning and augmented reality together, you could just look around and be like, oh, there's an ad there. There's, advertising that place. I think that's maybe what David is talking about, which absolutely, you just lift up your phone and, oh, there's a 25% off at that place over there, or, all of that will be really big.
Yeah, because I was wondering, physically how they would have, maybe it's like you're walking around and there's a building and there's just a billboard, a Macca's billboard or something, and it's not like a take up the whole of your screen kind of thing. It's more just subtle, to be in the realm that you're in. So I think that's probably the best way to do advertising in AR. David, question, how does your business generate ongoing revenue that isn't linked to professional services and or development?
Cool. So, we are really not focused on professional services. We're a game studio and really focused on innovative gaming in that space. So both, how do we integrate mobile into our VR games and delivering those games and whether it's, continual upgrades to those games, microtransactions through new skins that you might purchase in those games, kind of like games as a service, if you will. People you want to keep them retained and coming back. That replayability is important, but so is that revenue model to ensure that, you're still having people purchasing things within your game or new upgrades. For us, it's straight to consumers through the stores that we deliver our games on. And then, in the location-based space, it's the license model. So those places pay us to license our gaming software.
Cool. And Jackie's brought up a point, and I've just Googled to double check. There's an article 22 hours ago, Oculus Quest 2 recalled or halted for skin irritation. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I think was it 0.01% or something had an irritation from the insert of glasses. No, I really don't think it will halt us. So what they're doing is they're selling them now with a silicone insert, which we have here anyway, because for hygiene purposes, you have a silicone insert and then you just clean that with a wipe. I don't know anyone who's had been affected by this, but obviously there has been a small number that they have said, if you want to recall, if you want to send it back, just the insert, they'll give you a new one. But it hasn't impacted us at all. No.
Okay, no, that's good to hear. No, that's awesome.
I know. I did see it. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah. Is there anything else like that could happen that could be, detrimental to the business? And are you looking at ways around that?
Yeah, I mean, like when you work with new hardware, you are taking a big risk, right? Yeah. It is risky because we can control what we create in terms of the software, but we cannot control what the hardware provider is doing, and so, one of the challenges we've often had with building for Oculus Quest is that as soon as there's a software update, which happens regularly, it can change things that are not always good for you as a development studio. When we first made Oddball, the Quest has what's called a guardian, which is basically you draw in your space a play area where you can play inside what's called this guardian. So, if you've only got a small little lounge, then you'll draw in your small little lounge. If you have a huge space like we do out the back, which was, 10 meters by 10 meters, which was the maximum, well, actually it used to be bigger than that. It was like 12 by 12 or something. You could draw this big space and play in it. Mm-hmm. However, just as we had launched our game, they did an update and reduced the size of the guardian that you could draw. So our game didn't fit in the guardian anymore. So we had to, over a weekend, completely redesign our game so that it fitted into a smaller guardian. In a recent release, this was over a year ago, in a recent release, they've just increased the guardian again. So you are at the mercy of the platforms that you use, but it's no different, from other software, from other things, hardware that people use, if it's being, you're at the cutting edge, so you're also at the mercy of that edge.
Yeah. Well, at least you guys have the ability to change things up quickly. So and you'd hope, maybe next time they'll give you a bit of warning and
oh, you don't get warning. No, you don't get any warning. You'd hope so.
Oh, no. Okay, we've got to talk.
It's a surprise. It's like a little delight. You're like, oh, there's some good things, and then you're like, ooh, what are the bad things? Because I don't normally tell you that. You have to figure that out yourself. Or everyone's online saying, is everyone having trouble calibrating their headsets? Or
Oh my gosh. You mentioned, are there any online forums specifically where people chatting about VR, developments and stuff that other people might want to join in?
Yeah. There's quite a few Slack communities. There is one. Now I'm trying to look. It's called. I'm like, is it on my? It's not on my desktop one. There's a local. If you're into game development, there's a New Zealand game Developers Association has a Slack channel, and in there's an AR VR channel. So there's a few of us that are in that area. Of course, if the conference is actually next week, and there's a whole section on realities. So there's a whole lot of speakers. I'll be there, and some really lots of other interesting people. So that's a community there. And then there is, as I mentioned, I hosted a meetup last night. So there's the XR meetup, and there's people in Auckland like Mark Billinghurst who have kind of coordinating the Auckland side of things. Rob Lindemann down in Christchurch, HitLab, they kind of have a bit of a community. But yeah, there just have a little search, and there's definitely some Slack and some Discord channels as well. I'm in a couple of Discord ones, so plenty of people to be involved in.
Awesome. That's cool. Another question from Jesse. Are there any grants available to help build the apps that will be used in future AR glasses? Since most are focused on research and avoid development. Now, you mentioned it's quite hard to
it's quite hard. R&D, isn't it? It says it's got R&D, but often the D part of it is hard to get the funding to do. I appreciate that. Absolutely. I mean, Callaghan Innovation still, you can do there. You can apply for co-funding for R&D projects, and I think absolutely like apps that are related to the future of AR glasses would sit nicely in that. There is not really a lot else for that area. If the New Zealand Film Commission has a small interactive fund, but that's very much about telling stories using AR or VR. So not really, unless probably wouldn't fit in that. There's not really a lot. We're pushing for an interactive kind of a government body that can focus on interactive, because the interactive industry, AR, VR, has kind of been excluded from a lot of those funding applications, which is quite short-sighted and is a disappointment, really, because we do have a real opportunity here to be innovative in this space. But you do need, you need a leg up, you need some support. Okay.
Oh, awesome. If anyone has any last minute questions, we've got a couple minutes left. Please do, chuck in any thoughts. Well, I guess, now you've got your investment, so maybe that is the route to go, is if there's no funding available, is to go searching for investment, would you say? Yeah,
and like people like Jackie, we do have fantastic investors, angel investors out there who do, obviously, like we'll back you, and we'll appreciate that maybe, whether you're a female, whether you're, who cares, whatever, if you've got innovative ideas and vision and passion, then they want to come and support you and be along the ride. And I feel really enthused about that community, and I think, there's only going to be more opportunities for people to get investment in this area. There's way more VC funds in New Zealand now than, kind of 5-10 years ago. So, I think there are much more opportunities to get investment. And if you're looking at it from a commercial enterprise, lens, absolutely, it's a pretty big market out there. You only have to look at kind of military training or, one of these areas, and, there's a lot of money. Yeah.
I mean, we've got a comment here from Johnny. When's the next round?
Hi, Johnny. Not sure when the next round is. Just closing this one and looking forward to focusing on making amazing games. But I'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, are you aware of, as it 8360 based out in Petone? Yeah, they've got the globe, the ball.
Yeah.
You did the VR and it moves, and
Terry, him and his team are awesome, and again, they've also had investment. So to say that, and 8i originally had investment, so there is investment that's going into VR and has gone into VR. So I think I just saw an article the other day focused on again, military training. So got some good deals going on there, and they're a really driven, awesome team. We spent a bit of time with them in Auckland at the We Love Aotearoa event, which Gabe Newell, who I mentioned from Valve, he put on as a thank you to kind of the community for having him in New Zealand during COVID, during lockdown. He's a billionaire, so he could put on a big free event, and Terry's team were there and we were there, and so it's cool. He's cool. He didn't come last night because I think he was speaking maybe in Lower Hutt at an event. So
I mean, they just got that. They've just sent them off to the US, I think, but
cool.
For training, which is very interesting, because again, they'll focus more on the industry users, not so much the consumer facing kind of games kind of thing. But I can definitely see the integration at some point for some cool games whilst you're moving around in the sphere there.
Exactly. I mean, their hardware, and hardware is hard, as people say. So I good on them. They really, really awesome.
Yeah, awesome, cool. And so so in the next few months for you, as a head down working on the game? Combinauts
coming to you soon. It's focused on that. We're at the Gold Awards tonight, so that's going to be fun. We're a finalist for in the creative section, so having a night off, which will be cool. And, you know, NZGDA next week, which will be great to get together with the community, lots of learnings to be had. And then it's just really, I have it in my diary every morning, focus, because it's very easy to get excited about new stuff and it's easy to get distracted by things, you know, and, you know, I think we all know as founders that we can't do everything. And so we do need to make sure that we knuckle down and focus and try not to wear too many hats. Otherwise they fall off.
Yes, that's a good one, actually. Awesome. Okay. No other questions have come through, so I guess we will wrap it up. And we will be uploading this on YouTube in the next couple of hours. So if anyone, if you know anyone who's missed it and wants to rewatch, we'll chuck this up on the Territory 3 channels. So LinkedIn, Facebook. So we'll be there afterwards. But anyway, massive thank you to Jessica for coming on and sharing her story and talking to us about VR and AR, some very exciting things going on there. And good luck to tonight, and good luck for everything coming up for you.
Thank you, really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for your questions and tuning in.
Cool, awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Catch you later. See ya.
Bye.